Bonjour, ici Dave Casey, je suis fondateur du Cercle de leaders de l'innovation. Dans cette vidéo qui va être en anglais, nous allons regarder l'approche de Lean Startup dans un contexte d'innovation stratégique. Quand on parle d'innovation stratégique, ici, on parle des innovations avec lesquelles que la portée de l'innovation est les plus importante, c'est-à-dire que le degré d'incertitude est fort probablement plus élevé également. Étant donné ce niveau d'incertitude, essentiellement, il y a des hypothèses qu'il va falloir faire et en cours de route, celles-ci vont être soit confirmées ou infirmées. L'approche Lean Startup, elle est intéressante dans cette dynamique de pouvoir avancer graduellement avec un niveau d'hypothèse plus élevé ou d'incertitude plus élevé et s'assurer d'une validation au fur et à mesure au lieu de partir avec un ensemble trop élevé d'hypothèses qui fait que finalement on se retrouverait à avoir un échec et on ne saurait pas nécessairement d'où vient finalement la cause de cet échec en termes, par exemple, de satisfaction des gens ou de performance du produit ou du service. Fait que commençons la vidéo.
This video from the Innovation Leaders Club explores why the Lean Startup development approach is better for strategic innovation. The traditional development approach usually requires market research and a business case to justify any investment or development effort. Unfortunately, the business case is often a static document, while the market keeps evolving from when the market study is completed until the innovation is launched. Learn how to proceed by using the Lean Startup approach. We have developed a 60-page visual guidebook on how to develop an innovation strategy. It is a fully illustrated step-by-step guide to building the foundation of an innovation system. Click the link in the description below to download it for free. Traditionally, managing businesses involves annual plans, annual objectives, and project plans. When something goes wrong, it's easy to blame it on a faulty plan or poor execution. When presenting an innovation project, the typical approach is the traditional waterfall model. The first step is the market research, where the market and customers are studied to identify needs. Second, a business plan is built. This is to justify the project while projecting a financial forecast and returns. Lastly, if everything has been accepted, the plan is executed as planned. So what's wrong with this approach? With this typical approach, key assumptions and the hypothesis of the business plan are too uncertain. There's no iteration in the process. As the plan proceeds to execution, things are undoubtedly learned, and there are too many possible outcomes. There is no certainty when looking towards the future. When the business plan is built up front, there is a need to eventually validate the hypotheses, even with market research. If you wait until the plan's execution to verify what comes next, the whole business plan remains one big, wild guess. Most importantly, in this waterfall approach, the business plan is a dead document, a milestone. It will not be revised or updated along the way. It might be consulted to assess the performance a year from now, but rarely is it a living document. Steve Blank is an American serial entrepreneur, educator, author, and speaker. He lives in California, where he became a billionaire. He is known to have launched the Lean Startup Approach movement. One of his famous quotes is, "No business plan survives first contact with customers." The point is, how can you ask a plan when there is too many unknowns in an unpredictable environment? Rather than using the conventional waterfall approach, it's best to start with small-scale market research, a business plan, and an execution. This is also called the Lean Startup approach, and it doesn't take as much time as the waterfall approach. It can lead to learnings that will allow innovators and companies to adapt, adjust, and perfect the plan. When looking at the life of innovation, making smaller steps to gain insight is far more ideal than building a voluminous business case. The perfect business plan will emerge from small iterations, and the product or innovation grows from that. It also allows you to learn more and learn quickly. For more details on the fallacy of the perfect business plan, this article written by Steve Blank and published in the Harvard Business Review explains why a perfect business plan emerges from small iterations. To dive deeper into the subject, you might want to read the book The Lean Startup, written by Eric Ries, which describes the whole process in detail. When you have an idea of a value proposal, it's all assumptions. A pivot is a radical change of direction on one or more components of the business model. It becomes necessary when tests reveal that assumptions do not match reality. When testing is late or when anything goes wrong, it can be perceived as a failure. Consider this in a situation when you're working on the design and need to justify changes with upper management. As time goes on, designers may become less willing to make modifications to their innovations. Some club members even say, over time, the developer may fall in love with their innovation and be unwilling to change anything. To summarize, testing early is always positive because it validates assumptions with reality. Then you learn and get to make something worthwhile out of it, whether it is to persevere if the results are positive or to pivot when the results are not as expected. Knowing when to persevere or pivot is a vital part of the validated learning process. Keeping in mind that you need to test early, how would you revisit the business plan preparation? Yes, the learning techniques should be identified first, before starting the product development process. To identify your learning techniques, you can use the validation board, which helps you identify your riskiest assumption and plan how you will validate it. Another interesting tool is the Value Proposition Canvas from Strategizer. Use the link below to watch their YouTube video on how to use it. Identifying the learning techniques first enables you to start with the right questions and problems. Rather than taking multiple stops to get to your destination, you can get a lot of your answers early.
Maintenant, regardons un exemple avec un membre du cercle des leaders d'innovation qui se nomme Fruit d'or. Fruit d'or est un transformateur alimentaire dans les fruits, plus précisément les petits fruits, notamment la canneberge et les bleuets. Fait que vous allez voir le lien direct entre la validation à différentes étapes et la maturation de l'innovation qui s'ensuit. Regardons la vidéo.
A good example of a learning process include these 4 learning techniques: usage and attitude, idea selection, co-creation, and home testing. To start with, usage and attitude involves getting to know the customers, their habits, preferences, annoyances, and needs. The second step, idea selection, tests preliminary ideas to determine the proper value of the idea as the value proposition stage. In the food and beverage industry, it is easier to visualize this with the help of a good graphic artist, or just a hands-on in the kitchen for prototyping. Next, co-creation goes into more detail of the concept through a recipe, software, service, or other avenue. At the end of the front end of innovation is home testing, which is more of a fine-tuning. It begins by sending out prototypes. After converging a few of your ideas, sending out the prototypes helps in confirming whether or not you have the right concept. Bathroom products, for example, involve fine-tuning the installation process. To summarize, in the beginning, the business model is a collection of assumptions or hypotheses. The top assumptions are selected to be tested first, for instance, the riskiest assumptions. After that, these hypotheses are tested in an experiment in a business setting involving measurements such as interviews, surveys, and other tools for market measurement. It is the start of the learning process using minimum viable products. The findings of this testing are called validated learning.
Maintenant, regardons l'application pour une grande organisation établie. Une organisation qui a déjà un processus de développement des innovations et puis l'intégration du Lean Startup. Vous allez voir que la compagnie GE, General Electric, qui est quand même une grande multinationale, qui est dans le secteur médical, de l'énergie, de l'aviation, a implanté le Fast Work, étant finalement un processus distinct de leur processus de développement régulier. Ce qui est intéressant, c'est qu'en fonction du niveau d'incertitude qu'une innovation stratégique peut avoir, bien, on a l'option d'aller dans le processus de développement de produits ou processus d'innovation dite plus traditionnel, qui serait du type un peu de stage gate, ou aller du côté fast work. La différence entre les deux, c'est que dans une dynamique de processus de développement d'innovation avec des phases et des portes, on est plus dans une dynamique avec laquelle il y a un niveau quand même de certitude de faisabilité et surtout de certitude de ce que l'on souhaite réaliser. Tandis que dans le fast work, on se donne la possibilité de modifier en cours d'exécution, notamment à partir de nouvelles connaissances validées, de pouvoir faire les pivots dont on discutait un petit peu plus tôt. Fait qu'on vient finalement d'officialiser au sein de l'organisation que ce qui va sortir à la fin peut être peut-être différent de ce qui était au début. Tandis que dans un processus de développement traditionnel, essentiellement, ça serait vu un peu comme un échec, finalement, de développer quelque chose qui serait différent de ce qui a été approuvé, par exemple, à la porte 2. Fait que regardons l'exemple du fast work avec General Electric.
Established organizations are still learning about the lean startup approach. General Electric mandated Eric Ries to develop their version of the lean startup approach named FastWorks, pictured here. Notice that FastWorks starts at the top with customer need and proceeds with potential solutions to get ahead in problem solving. Based on the preliminary projected solutions, GE's innovators identified its leap of faith assumptions. The first thing they do is list the riskiest assumption to validate whether or not the solution is viable. After that, they test their assumptions by building minimal viable products, commonly called MVPs. MVPs are described as the cheapest and simplest way to test the assumptions with a potential client in order to gain knowledge. This learning is defined by learning metrics, which serves to test the MVP. Once the test result is available, the team decides whether to preserve the solution or pivot to a modified solution.
J'espère que cette vidéo vous a été utile. Ce qui est intéressant de voir, le Lean Startup, qui est réellement l'approche qui a été développée dans une perspective d'entreprise en démarrage ou des jeunes pousses, startup en anglais, peut être appliquée dans une organisation établie, soit dans une organisation qui n'a aucun processus ou une organisation qui aurait un processus de développement déjà établi qui devient finalement un processus distinct. Et dépendamment du nombre d'incertitudes que l'on a, on peut opter pour un processus ou l'autre. D'autres organisations ont cherché à introduire l'agilité du Lean Startup dans leur processus de développement en introduisant la possibilité de faire des pivots à chacune des portes. Fait que ça amène une autre dynamique et une évolution d'un processus de développement qui serait appelé un stage gate 3e génération. Le stage gate 2e génération étant celui que l'on utilise de façon plus générale dans les organisations. Au plaisir de vous retrouver dans une prochaine vidéo. Au revoir.
If you haven't already done so, you can get your hands on our popular 60-page visual guidebook for free. Click the link in the description below. Don't hesitate to watch the next video to learn even more about innovation management practices.